Okay, so I've got a partially edentulous case here that we're going to ultimately extract the teeth from. And this is actually an impression scan. So I've gone ahead and marked my landmarks, identified which models were a direct scan versus an impression scan. And now I want to go clean up some of this excess material that was captured in the impression. So I'm going to jump over to the model work tools. And in this mode, before we get too far in the workflow, you can actually still select either model by clicking with the left mouse. Looks like your standard left click. So I'll left click the model that I want to work on. I'll click trim model, which will take us into kind of our mesh cleanup tool. And because this is an impression, you'll notice that the model is like ever so slightly brighter when you're looking at the inside. All right, so a couple techniques here is we can paint on this excess material just up to the edge of the roll of the impression. Another technique is you can like kind of paint beyond it and then kind of try to look from here and then like remove what you want to keep. You can also use the lasso tool. But you have to be careful. When I lasso here, you'll see that it's actually going to shoot through and grab everything behind it. So the brush tools are, they only paint the surface that you're on, but the lasso tool will kind of shoot through. All right, so I'm going to clear what I've painted here and then actually do this now that I've given just a slight intro to how the tools work. So I'm going to switch to brush. I'm going to make my brush radius just a little bit smaller here and just paint right along the impression here. Same thing down here. And there's about 1,000,001 preferences in terms of how you actually execute these border trimmings, but this is kind of how I like to do it. I'll press delete painted. And then there's also this loose parts button here, which will delete anything that's like hanging off the edges. Now I'll kind of take a peek and try to get any little tags right here. I get this from the other angle here and Control Shift left mouse, or I could have gone lasso and hit it with the lasso. Okay, do we see any other little pieces? Yeah, this little piece here. I already painted that, so we'll delete painted. We'll do loose parts to get rid of any floaters. And now this looks pretty good. So I will commit this. And now, because this is an impression scan, I'm going to flip the normals. Now keep in mind that when we worked through here, we marked this as an impression. So if we come over here to model work and we flip the normals, notice that the surface is going to kind of change color. It's nice and bright. If we come back to our workflow, it's now identified that this is a model. So our workflow is kind of keeping track. Like if you have an active denture case in design and you jump over to the model work and you make a change, the case, it's smart enough to know like, okay, I'm working on the lower model for this case. I flipped the normals. It was an impression. Now it's a model. So that's just like a little aside that we've got a little safety built in to keep things functional. Now I'm going to add a simple base to this model. There's no need to add a land to this, but I will allow for cleaning and filling of holes. So that's going to add just a nice base here. I'm going to go back into the trim tool. And we can either like paint very carefully, like right around the edge of the tooth. Or we can use like the lasso tool and cut that off. And that's probably the fastest way I like to go just a tiny bit past. Some people like to get it right at the sulcus, but right now I'm spending like entirely too much time. And so by painting this little region first, then when you come and do your lasso, you don't have to be like as concerned. Okay, so we have both the teeth painted, and I will press this delete fill remesh button, which is kind of hiding in there. And you'll see that it cuts them off and fills the hole. Now don't stress about the bottom down here, that where the base is like kind of confused about triangulating the base. That's going to work itself out when we do the refractory model. So I'll commit that. We'll jump back into our denture workflow. And I'll just do the lower so we can see. We'll capture our view. And we must be one small setting because it should have, I should not have had to flip the normals there, but if you do see your model go like all burgundy, you need to flip the normals again. So we'll commit that. And we can do our lower refractory. And we're ready to just like work through the case like normal. Okay, and alrighty, that's the end.